And yes, these are the days where it would be so nice to have a technical producer, operations producer, technical director, I guess we would go. Hasn't been that long since I worked in TV. Welcome into the Wake Up College Football Show. Still got to get used to spitting that out as well, because the brain just functions with everything that we've had here at the Voice of College Football in regards to our regular lineup. And so Wake Up College Football just does not readily come to the brain. But we are here on a Monday morning. It's a good morning. The sun is shining here. Hopefully it's shining there, if that's what you prefer, because that's what I assume most people prefer. However, I do have some friends and other people that I've run across in life that prefer clouds, overcast, just too much sun, just bothers them. Now, I got to say, if it's going to be something close to what we heard about in Arizona last summer, where it was 120 degrees for months and the sun was beating down every day, yes, I could take a few clouds to get in the way of the sun. Absolutely. Too much of a good thing. Yes, you know what that is. There are very few things that you could say, there is no such thing as too much of a good thing. And we will probably not have you list those out, because something came to mind for me at least. But yes, too much of a good thing. But we're not there yet. Not in my life, not concerning sunshine. Maybe heat and humidity. Maybe we've started to reach that point. But the sunshine? No, not the sunshine. But Wake Up College Football. Appreciate you all being here. And I apologize for the delay. Once again, we're working off of the stand-up mic. And I explained to you a couple of weeks ago just the issue, the red tape that had to be worked through just to, of course, exchange mics and get that from the other set, working with a completely other department. And hopefully all of you understand that I'm completely kidding. It's just me. We can make these things switch over very quickly. However, kind of disappointed. Don't know what's going on with I'm sure it's something I'm doing, but there couldn't be too much, because I went to the wireless mic and we were good to go for about 4 days. And I made sure that it was charged. It's certainly charged. There's no issues with the charging portion of it, but it's just not connecting. Has not connected for 4 or 5 days now. So I'm going to have to get into the directions. And yes, is that going to happen? Considering the to-do list, we'll get to it. So hopefully we will get to it at some point. But appreciate you all being here. And if the wireless mic is the worst of our problems, then hey, here we are. Trying to do a much better job this week of going to bed on time to get up at a decent time, whatever time that is. I don't even know what time. That could be a good start to actually figure out what would be a good time to go to bed. Get up at 7:06 to be precise. And yes, I got out of bed. It was 7:26. So as soon as we get done today, and I'll forget this unless I put a note down in my rundown, the trusty rundown for today, there it is, to put a poll out there. I would put a poll in the chat right now, but I don't know how to do that. That was another thing I looked into. We did that a couple times, and now it's been so long that I don't remember how to put a poll in the chat. But guess what day, what show number, this being number 13, what show number that we will be genuinely late. So we were 3 or 4 minutes late today. That was a technical issue. I couldn't get the mic to work. We had that issue a couple days ago. I'm going to be a minute or two late. That's just my nature. That's what it is. We've hit on time. We have hit on time. But yeah, at what point am I going to oversleep? I'm pretty proud of myself, as you could probably tell, that we've made it 13 shows and I've not overslept. However, the alarm went off at 7:06. my own little built-in snooze because I did not press the snooze. I'm not a snooze guy. I don't like the whole concept of snoozing. Just get up. But I do my own internal snoozing. That's what I did. Dozed off 7:26. Okay, get to it. Let's go. Out of bed, and there we go. So I'm going to leave that poll. I'm not going to give a date range or a show range of options there. We're going to go strictly with you. You just take the guess, and we're going to have to come up with a prize for that. Going to have to come up with a prize for that. All right. So much appreciate everyone being here. Let's see who's in the crowd this morning, this fine morning. Drufus says it's 6. Wake up. Yeah. I woke up a couple times overnight. Also had myself a dream, a weird dream. They're always weird, right? Who has a normal dream? Did you ever have a dream where you just woke up, you went to work, you had breakfast, you had an average day at work, you came home, you kissed your wife, and you watched TV? Of course, dreams are weird. They're always weird. I've never had a dream that was, I've had a few that were a little bit more reasonable, more realistic than other dreams. But this one I hope is not realistic because it was me. And I don't know if you dream like this, but I'll sometimes have dreams and sometimes I'll be able to say, okay, this person, and this person were in my dream. And there's usually one person that I know, they were in my dream. Yes, there was one person, my son. I do know that he was in my dream last night. And that reminds me that hopefully I'm going to talk to him today because I had a dream last week that I wanted to remember to tell him about, but I didn't. Because my son, very busy, especially these days, starting his own business, very busy, getting clientele, doing all those things. So he has quit the job, boom, broken off, was able to do that 24 years prior to when I was able to do that under different circumstances, but able to break off and say, you know what, I'm doing my own thing, start my own business. He's wanted to do this for quite some time. And so congratulations to my son. I'm very proud of him. He has set himself up well, and he has launched his own business. So anyway, he's just extremely busy and has other things going on in life in addition to his business. So we typically talk once a week, sometimes twice a week, and text a lot. But when I say we talk once a week, a lot of people, I notice this with women, you women in the crowd, you keep up with your, depending on your age range, whether it's your mom or whether it's your sisters or whether it's your daughter. When they get older, they tend to keep up like on this regular basis. Like, I mean, every day with some of them. Like they have to talk to their mom every day. They have to talk to their daughter every day. They have to talk to their sister every day. I've been around that. Then I've been around others where it's just on a fairly regular basis. But it seems like women keep up with each other better than men do. However, I will say this. When my son and I talk on the phone, we talk on the phone. Now, again, my daughter and I, we talk on the phone more often. But when my son and I talk on the phone, it might be 2 hours. It's always going to be 45 minutes unless there's something that's pressing one of us. It's going to be 45 minutes for sure. And recently it's been 2-hour phone calls. But he was in the dream last night for sure. But I don't know if you dream like this. I have a general feeling of who's there, but I don't remember seeing their face. But I have a general feeling like this group of people was there. My family, my friends, a mixture of the two. But sometimes I don't remember exactly who, but I could, within a group of like 10 people, I could figure it out. I know that most of them were there. That's how it was last night. We were preparing to go on vacation. And it was this fire drill going on vacation. And it was like this old school vacation where you had like a station wagon, which my family never had a station wagon. but I do somewhat recall a station wagon being in the dream. Maybe not, maybe not. But it's like I was in this combination of my former condo and like an old house. Again, nothing close to what I ever lived in, except my old condo. It kind of looked like in some ways. So anyway, if I recall this correctly, there were alligators living in the basement, but like everybody kind of just understood that's the way it was. Don't go down to the basement. There's like a swamp of water down there, and there's alligators down there. I don't know how to explain that in any way that people would be fine with that and just allow that. Just keep the door closed. That's my general impression. Again, I don't remember this specifically from the dream, but it seemed to be this general impression. However, lo and behold, what do you think happened? Oh, one of the alligators got out. And so we had an alligator like in somebody's room. And we just figured, I think the best plan of attack was simply to rush on vacation, leave the house open, and the alligator would eventually leave. Great plan, right? That was just a tremendous plan we came up with. But near the end of everybody packing up their stuff to leave, I was kind of fending off this alligator. I had the door closed, and there was no way I was going to keep this alligator from, and I just wanted to keep the door closed for a period of time that I could like rush out of the house. And I was having an issue with that, and I was calling for my son to get upstairs, and we were going to figure something out, like jam the door with a broomstick or something, at least for a minute or two, so that we could leave. And I was yelling and yelling and yelling, and I was getting no response. That was my dream. And some people believe that dreams mean something. Well, of course they mean something. They mean that your subconscious was working on something. A lot of people think that they're prophetic. Not for me. They're not. They're just, who knows what was working back there at some point. So that's the alligator dream with my son and other people. There were just people just rushing to the station wagon with coolers and clothes and all sorts of stuff. All right. We do appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. And I believe we're broadcasting on X as well. Sometimes you throw it on here, sometimes you don't. So that's a reminder that if you are watching us on X, that we are here every Monday through Thursday. Had a couple people comment to me last week that they were waiting on Friday, and sorry, no Friday shows right now. It's kind of nice to slide into the weekend, think, oh, I can sleep in today, don't have to do the show today, 3-day weekend. And of course, it's not necessarily urgent at this point, but we've got a football season, right? So there's 2 seasons for us. Well, there's about 18 different seasons for us at the Voice of College Football, but there's two main seasons. There's the off season, and then we're in season. And so once we get into in season, mid-August, some point close to the season, will kick in on Friday as well. I just can't imagine this show once we get in season, because I will not be talking about alligators in my house. I don't think so. Depends what you guys want this show to be, but we'll be talking about a lot of football. There will be a lot of football that we will have to cram in to our time here, however long the show lasts, on a daily basis. I was asked that a number of times when we launched it. How long is the show going to be? 20 minutes, 40 minutes, 2 hours? I don't know. Seems like we hit about an hour and a half every day. And for a particular reason, I've wanted to hit an hour and a half over the last several days, and I'm actually hoping that continues, because that would mean good financial success. All right, we do appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football, Wake Up College Football, and we start with our headlines. But before that, I've got to just see who's in the chat, got to greet everyone, got to see everyone, and your smiling faces. Which means, of course, we started with Drufus. We've got Bo Weevil. Hopefully my audio is fine. I guess I will know that in a second. But again, my apologies. The wireless mic, I don't know what the deal is. I think it's me. It's probably me. If it's technical, it's me. However, you press two buttons and you hold them together. You got two devices. You press two buttons. You hold them until it activates a light. You see the light, boom, and it's worked for like 4 or 5 straight days. And then after that, did not work. Bo Weevil, go Clemson. Did not oversleep day 13. The poll's coming out. You guess what day? That would be me. I guess I sent that out a few times. Yes, we're on Facebook as well. That's right. We are on Facebook. Jared, good morning. Buckeye fan, Penn State fan, Franklin fanatic. I got to tell you that sorry, Ohio State and Michigan fans, please be here. Please support. Please do all those things. And I will continue to pump out as much content on Ohio State and on Michigan. Not together. Doesn't always have to be together, of course. Tons of Ohio State, tons of Michigan. Sometimes together like we did the other day. Check out the live stream on the obsession between Ohio State and Michigan. So that will always be there. However, it's a national college football show. It is a national college football channel. It's probably become, I hate to admit this, but based on your pushing and prodding and talking and everything turned into too much of all that. I have fed into it a little bit, not much, a little bit, but Clemson fan, Penn State fan, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We do have a Clemson channel. One day we will have a Penn State channel. I do believe that. However, we will be announcing a Big Ten channel. So we will have a Big Ten channel for more Penn State content. John's here. Good to see John. John from London, which is a good reminder for me. Not that it's not on my calendar. So in London, is it like 3 a.m? No. It's later. It's about noon. I think it's 5 hours from Eastern Standard Time, I believe. So it would be 1 p.m. I do believe. And that's a good reminder for me. I will be hosting the Michigan show on Tuesday night. TJ Konerski, Ferris Khan, myself, the Michigan show. John has done a remarkable job in building the Michigan channel, the Michigan show. So, mighty impressed with that because we started off with myself doing the Michigan show and Michigan content. And we got Dre and Desmond involved. They were phenomenal. They did our post-game show for at least, I lose track of years, but I believe it was one full season of post-game shows and would join me on the Michigan show. And Des and Dre did an amazing job. They are welcome to show up at any time, but they've got busy lives, things going on. So they had to relinquish their spots. And I wasn't as involved. We had a bit of a slump, and John has kicked it in. We picked up TJ and Ferris, and it's a great show. It's a great show. I will hopefully do it some justice on Tuesday night. Tuesday night at 8 Eastern, the Michigan show. There we go. We've got Ralph here. I am so impressed with guys like Ralph, Moose. Those two come to mind. Yes, there are others. Mike Fort, in the past, haven't necessarily seen anything out of Mike recently, but in the past, but specifically in recent weeks, months, Ralph and Moose, because I have hit them with a lot of facts, stats that they wouldn't necessarily like, and they've come back, and we've gone back and forth, and these guys are still just here at the Voice of College Football. A lot of people take offense to these kind of things. My goodness, I had so many people all offended because I told the truth about the Big 12. I'm sorry, I told the truth about the Big 12. We did a video last week about Brett Yormark He made ridiculous comments about the Big 12. I clearly stated that I understood why he made the comments. I did not believe that he had to be that over the top. He could have more eloquently, more conservatively stated a positive outlook on the Big 12 and the future of college football. But he said a lot of ridiculous things that are not true about equality and cooperation when, again, you got to watch the video. I pretty much outlined very clearly, very factually, how things have never had less cooperation or less equality. Very easy to see, bullet point by bullet point, how, and I went through the entire article, and then I had Big 12 fans mad, thinking like I want the demise of the Big 12. This is where people get confused. And we see this now, and it's got to be a product of social media. Because back before social media, if you just had a conversation, either I guess people just got pissed off watching shows. They'd watch a show on ESPN or on Fox or whatever, the channel where there would be debate. This would be the only sports ones, I guess. And then CNN News. And you would see a debate, you get pissed off. You had no way to, you talk to your friend about it, you'd call them up, you'd get pissed off, and you could, yell in the car to yourself, but that was about it. That was your only outlet. Well, now people get upset and they jump on social media. They respond to this channel, which is great. But I think the first problem, as I mentioned to a gentleman a couple of days ago, and I understand if a video is 10 or 15 minutes long, that you're not catching every single point. I'm sure I do the same thing. Listen to a video, watch a video, I'm doing something else at the same time, and I'm sure I get upset or mad or think somebody missed something or they got something wrong, and I probably missed it because I didn't listen to it word for word for word for word. But I get accused so many times of, you said this, you said that, you're against us, you're against... Did you listen to the video? No, you didn't listen to the video. So in this particular case, I am not against the Big 12. I love the Big 12. I want there to be a Big 12. I do not want the SEC and the Big 10 to run off with college football and kick everybody else out the door and maybe say Oklahoma State and Kansas State are good enough to play with us and Utah, and that's it, and the rest of you, screw you, play group of 5. I don't want anything close to that. I love the Big 12. I can probably guarantee that I've watched more Big 12 football than 97% of the people that comment about Big 12 football, and would probably grade higher on a quiz. Well, I could almost guarantee that 100% of the time, grade higher on a quiz about Big 12 football. I do not want the Big 12 to go away, but it's my job. I've made it my job and the job of this channel to... We don't report. I am not here to report. I'm not a reporter anymore. I did that for 10 years, but I'm not a reporter, so I don't, but we will report the news. We'll use other sources. We're not originating the report, but then it's more about the analysis of what's going on. Somebody says something, I'm going to analyze it and say, they're spot on. Boom, boom, boom. They're spot on here, here, here. This makes no sense. That's not accurate. They probably said this because they're trying to convince people of this. It's my analysis. You may not agree with it, but when it came to Brett Yormark and the Big 12 and what's going on with the conference structure right now, it's hard to argue. And I'm not going to make all those points right here. Just watch the video. But I had Big 12 fans both on the comment section and then also on X that were upset with me. And they unsubscribed and they got mad and said, I'm not watching this guy anymore. He hates the Big 12. Oh, Lord. That's the one thing about not communicating and broadcasting all my predictions the last few years, that I've put them on Patreon. That's made it so much nicer instead of having my predictions out for everyone, because there are those people, and there's way too many of them, that as soon as you predict their team to lose, they think that you hate their team. Oh, you hate our team. No, I predicted them to lose a game. I am eventually going to predict everyone to lose a game. It's kind of difficult not to. Okay. So we had those people. And then we have people that, again, don't listen. We did the Miami to the Big 12. That's out there. That's being talked about. Again, I have yet to find any reputable sources that say, this is why we're talking about this. This came from this particular person. Okay, they have authority and influence. Therefore, we should. Now, that said, I believe that there is validity there. I believe there is something happening. I do believe that that's a valid and reasonable option. So it's not like I think the discussion's invalid. I just can't figure out why it's being talked about now. Who started this? Or just some writer started it. It kind of looks like this could play out this way. So I'm just throwing it out there. And now everybody's picked it up to talk about it. Or if there is a person, for example, when the Pac-12 was in free fall, I could have produced Pac-12 videos every day. However, I waited until, the Arizona State president said this today. Okay, that is somebody who knows what's going on, who's in the room, who can lead us in the right direction. How much of this do we believe? We can speculate on that, but he said X, Y, and Z. So only in that way do I follow up on speculation, is when there are heavy hitters, when there are people in the know that say things. Or in this case, there's 82 different places that say this is a real thing. Miami could go to the Big 12. And so I produced a video, and you probably didn't watch it because not many people watched it for some reason. Those videos usually do well. But anyway, Miami to the Big 12, maybe it was a little bit late. It was like a day late. So it wasn't out there, and people had probably watched 8 of these already, so they didn't want to watch mine. So anyway, Miami to the Big 12, and it was amusing because one guy in particular was like, you don't know what you're talking about, LOL. This is the first time I've watched you. You don't know what you're talking about. Miami's not a cultural fit for, no, what did he say? No, because I was talking about then Miami to the Big 10, Miami to the SEC, sizing that up versus the Big 12, and why not in all those cases. And he's like, Miami's not a fit for the SEC. They're not a cultural fit. You don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. It's not what I said. I said that Miami geographically was a fit for the SEC. Don't really have to explain that. And I said that Miami schedules SEC teams. They've not scheduled a Big 12 team in 12 years. They have not had a non-conference game against the Big 12 in 12 years. They schedule SEC teams almost every year. Florida, LSU, Texas A&M, Alabama. They have played all those teams in the last 5 years, multiple times. I just made those 2 points. They have a history of scheduling SEC teams and having series with SEC teams. And number 2, geographically, they fit with the SEC, not the plains, the Dust Bowl of the Big 12. Those were my points. And then he went off on them being a private school, and the Big 12 doesn't have private schools. And, well, that's not entirely true. And, well, the SEC he was talking about, and Vanderbilt private school. Okay. All right. Franklin fanatic again. Foggy at Beaver Stadium today. D-Rock. Appreciate D-Rock being here. John's got a awards ceremony presentation. That sounds distinguished. Nick's here as well. Weird place for a microwave oven. Really? Is that a weird place for a microwave? I've seen this all over the place. Actually, my last house had it in exactly the same place. Trying to think beyond that. So the other houses I've had, the microwave was separate. It was just a purchased microwave that was out on the counter. But the last two places I've lived, one built in 1978, one built in 2023. So call it what you will. I will never, or 99% of the time, not argue with anyone that has anything to say about home construction or any of that, because I don't know. Yes, we talked about dreams last week. I seem to be remembering more dreams recently. I went through a couple of years of no dream remembrance, or very little. Ralph, got some guy chasing me around social media because I said, quote, I'd rather have a team with a 2-2 playoff record than a 2-0, both with a natty. Guy is borderline psycho. Well, the guy can certainly have his own opinion. I believe, Ralph, that you're saying he's psycho because he's chasing you around on social media. Yeah, I've got to kind of question people that take up these arguments and then they won't let them go. And I just think, what are you doing with your life? I will excuse myself to a certain degree because this is my job. But I need to even separate myself from some of that silliness. Yes, it's perfectly fine to have both. I can see both perspectives there. If you got a 2-2 playoff record, that means that you've been to more playoffs. If you're 2-0, that means you have not lost in the playoffs. Ralph, I agree with you. For me personally, I'd rather have my team in the playoffs more. I would rather have my teams be 5-8 in the playoffs than be 3-0 with the same or more number of national championships. Yes. The Rod Favre is here. Ralph, I don't think you want to watch Buckeyes live this week. Don't, because this whole Ohio State, Michigan, the series, this business. Yes. I'm not going to get into it now because I should have a banner for this. We have our all-time program rankings starting this week. We hope that everyone will join in, and we've got a big crowd for this because I've worked on this, and that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I put 3 minutes of work in it or 13 hours of work into it. It's more like that, but it's more about, is it quality content? We believe it is. The all-time program ranking is going to go through every conference, and then we're going to do live streams. So the hope is present a conference, then do a live stream, take your calls and feedback, do another conference, et cetera, put it all together at the end. All-time program rankings. We don't spitball it. We use real data. We use multiple angles of data. And I'm even going to present to you a number of other metrics that I would like to use, but I'm not a database. So I'm not adding things that would take months to add. But I would like that to be a component. For example, strength of schedule. I would like that to be a component of our all-time program rankings. Maybe someday when we've got some kind of research team, database, all of that, we will do that. Tim's an Iowa fan. Very good. Again, every time I see somebody outside of the typical, Drufus has to go. Sorry, I missed you, Drufus. Well, yes, people in general, our listening skills, yes, I think that's probably out of D-Rock, just a general point of society. Got my hair cut yesterday. Many of you could probably tell, and most of you don't care, and I get it. Of course, you don't care. But I'll tell you my haircutting story anyway. With a bit of a shout out. Man, I hate using that term, but I don't have anything else for it. It's been used out there so much that it kind of just goes in line with any time you bring attention to somebody who did something. So anyway, got out of church, was at the gas station and thought, you know what? I'd like to get my hair cut. And then I always or often have a little bit of buyer's remorse on the haircut. Not that it's not a good haircut, but I often think, you know what? I liked my hair when it was longer. Although most of the time I will enjoy that it's shorter. I will enjoy that it's shorter most of the time. But every so often, I'll be like, oh, it'll look better when it's longer. So I just can't be satisfied when it comes to my hair. Anyway, got a $9 haircut for one thing. Went down to Great Clips, Best Cuts, Great Clips. One of those standard chain places, found it on a Sunday afternoon, and they're open, and boom, I zoom down there, and I'm getting my hair cut by a very nice young lady. She tells me at some point that she's 25 years old because she was somewhere between my daughter's age, or she's 26 or 27 because she's between my daughter's age and my son's age. And it was funny because somebody said something at some point in this conversation that led us to understand, and I don't know what I would have said anyway, that led us to understand that we had a pretty similar worldview. Not necessarily spiritually, but in terms of not really just politically, more societally. Is that a word? Societally, in society, that we had a, because she makes this comment. She says, my generation's a mess. It's a disaster. I'm embarrassed of my generation. And 98% of us are lazy. We're entitled. We're easily offended. We just dream up things constantly to be mad about. We're constantly upset and mad and entitled, and nothing's ever right. And we're offended by everything, and we're weak, and I just listened to her and I said, I have two amazing kids who are in your generation, and they're not like that. So hopefully I had something to do with that, but I thank the good Lord, they're hardworking. They're not entitled. They're not perfect. But, and then I said, I said, I see that on social media. I see that on videos, but I don't know whether to, of course, not everyone's like that. I make a comment every so often, that I see something on social media, and I'll post something on X to say, this generation, it's looking pretty rough. And then people will attack me about, well, I've got a great daughter and there are great young people out there. Of course, there are amazing young people out there. Amazing young people out there. Just talking about trends. And and this woman was the type that, I call her a woman, but she is a woman, but she seemed like a girl because she's 26, 27 years old. Girl, woman. I don't know if they get offended by that, but she didn't seem like the person that would. She said, I tend to like to hang out with 50-year-olds better than I do with 25-year-olds. So that was quite interesting. It was difficult for me to get a word after a period of time. I just kind of sat there and listened because I would just try to look for my opening to say something. Franklin misses Big East football. Franklin, you may be the only one out there. Misses the Big East. I can't say that that's ever crossed my mind. Okay, Tim is telling us that Brendan Sullivan visited Iowa. Okay, talked about the Iowa quarterback situation last week, and let's address it right now. It's simple. Iowa should get Brendan Sullivan. I see no other quarterbacks on the market that are his combination of efficient and experienced. The guy's thrown 200 passes in Big Ten play, not necessarily against Big Ten opponents, not all of them, but he's thrown 200 passes as a Big Ten quarterback, completing 69%. Can you imagine an Iowa quarterback completing 69% of his passes. And it's not like he's been at Ohio State for the last 3 years, and then there would be a thought, okay, well, he's not going to be able to do that. No, he's been throwing to Northwestern receivers. Now, I understand he's not some super talented guy, but that would be a quarterback battle. And hopefully it would be a true quarterback battle, regardless of Cade McNamara's health. Brendan Sullivan should be given the opportunity to compete for that job equally, given a fair shot. And so we do thank everyone for being here. Bryant Williams, everything is set up for Penn State to win the Big Ten. Well, Brian, first and foremost, welcome to the Voice of College Football, or more succinctly like this. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you being here, Bryant. Let us know who you root for, how long you've been watching. And we'll get to the headlines. Let's do that. Again, all-time program rankings this week. And one other show note would be, I spent a good half hour, 45 minutes promoting our show on various Facebook pages. And so I would ask that you would do the same. So if you're on Facebook, and if you belong to college football groups in particular, so hey, if you want to throw up a promo for us on your Facebook page, your personal Facebook page, that would be phenomenal too. I don't know if Aunt Mary and Uncle Jim want to see that. That's up to you. But certainly if you belong to a Facebook group or 2 or 3, or like me, 50, and I find it kind of funny that they allow me in their Facebook groups, because I'm not a fan of any of these teams, but they allow me in their Facebook groups. And many of them, I've never pretended to be a fan. Sometimes they'll ask questions or ask about your favorite player, and I'll just put in there, I run a Texas channel. Here it is. Here's the link. And they always have accepted me. So, for example, here's our Oklahoma friends. There we go. So this is on the Oklahoma, some kind of Oklahoma page. Oh, there we go. What's this thing called? It's the, yes. Oklahoma Sooners fans, 18,000 members. I probably didn't do this at the best time, not the most opportune time, because I did this at like 1 o'clock in the morning. However, we will do it at a better time. But we posted Wake Up College Football notices on probably 25 different college football pages. So hopefully that will reap a benefit. So if you belong to a college football page on Facebook or any other platform, please post and let them know that we are here. Not just this show, whatever shows you like, let them know. All right, let's get to the headlines. Yes. And this first one, I love reading about court cases first thing in the morning. I love reading about them in general. I had somebody comment last week when we went through one of these stories, and I believe it was to this show. It might have been to one of the other shows, but it could have been to this show, about me not knowing something about one of these court cases. And what they picked on me for wasn't something I didn't know, but I readily agreed with them that I'm not keeping up with these court cases to a T. We've got a Florida State show. They're keeping up. We tap them. I bring on Tony Siracusa from Last Word on College Football. He listens to all of these hearings. I don't. I will not. We can still provide great content because I bring in the right people. I can still read an article from the Associated Press in this case and generally provide some reasonable analysis. However, there are other sources out there that are probably locked in, definitely locked in better than I am. Absolutely. Are there portions of this I don't either understand, or it's less about understanding and it's more about I just wasn't aware of that. Those are two different things, but here we go. South Carolina court orders ACC to provide Clemson with ESPN agreements. Love this. Love this. ESPN is arguing that their negotiation processes, I cannot think of the term. I cannot think of the legal term. Maybe we will hit it here. It's a common term about basically having ownership of a formula, and ownership of a procedure. You know, I think of Coke having its formula sealed and not wanting that and believing that it's their right to obviously keep that under lock and key, and that ESPN was giving the same argument that their negotiations and whatever documents are associated with those negotiations with the ACC should not be brought to light, should not be shared in court and ultimately shown to the public, because they have some kind of negotiation magic there that's the secret sauce. I thought it was a weak argument myself. Now, when I worked there were certainly bits of information. I was very appreciative of the company and very supportive and very much admired the company for sharing with the entire company a lot of items, a lot of plans that were not shared at other companies. And I think that grew out of it being a small company where things could be shared with 200, 300, 500 employees, and there not being social media, and therefore very few things leaked. And I'm sure that the company has adjusted through the years, but for a period of time operated in very much a mom and pop shop type of operation, that we can share this with our 5,000 employees and they're going to keep it under lock and key. Sure, things are going to get out. Not everyone's going to listen to us and abide by the rules, but we are going to build a certain culture in which we allow them to hear a lot of information. Then, as I was in management, you hear and are privy to more information the higher you go, of course. But certainly they got burned through the years. But I often admired that they were very upfront about their plans with their employees. And so taking that to another level, there were certainly procedures and operations that we were sworn to secrecy. I'm not talking about like the entire company. I'm talking about in individual departments, that we do this way, and you don't break the code and you don't share this with people because this is the way ESPN does this procedure, carries this through. Absolutely. This though, I just can't understand the argument. I would have to hear it out that their negotiation process is somehow theirs and theirs alone. All right. This comes from Clemson, South Carolina, where a South Carolina court has ordered the ACC to turn over documents about its agreements with ESPN that Clemson has requested in its lawsuit against the conference. The interim confidentiality order was released Friday. It said the ACC has 7 days to produce unredacted documents about its TV deal with ESPN to Clemson. The order also provides safeguards to keep the requested documents from being released publicly. That's big, but still, it's just one other layer and one other source, one other audience that will be privy to this information. Whether that's going to be 5 people or 50 people, then it will be public at some point. There will be shreds and leaks, and this will get out here and there, and within a few weeks, a few months, and then certainly later, this will all be known. The order bars Clemson, a public university, from complying with any Freedom of Information Act requests unless the ACC gives written permission or the school is forced to do so by another court with competent jurisdiction. Clemson sued the ACC in March, filed in South Carolina, and claims the ACC's $140 million exit fee is unconscionably high and unenforceable. That I don't get. I don't get that claim unless the ACC bargained and negotiated not in good faith behind Clemson's back and the rest of the schools in the ACC. So if that comes to light, that's one thing. But if it's all on the up and up and negotiated fairly and reasonably and with the best interest in minds of the schools, then I don't get this argument against the exit fee because it was all in writing and signed and sealed and agreed upon. The school also says the grant of rights only applies if Clemson is part of the conference, and that if a school exits the league, it retains control of the media rights to its home sporting events. So that's kind of an interesting, that's one of those arguments that's kind of an obvious argument to make, that yes, the grant of rights pertains only to ACC schools. If Clemson leaves the conference, then they are no longer a member of the school, but they left the conference because they went to court over the grant of rights. And they broke the grant of rights to leave the league. Therefore, they are making the claim that they will no longer be in the league. Therefore, they shouldn't be tied to the grant of rights. Well, that's kind of an obvious thing. So the court's going to have to decide. It's like saying, I broke the lease of my rent, my residency. I broke the lease. Therefore, I don't live there anymore because I got kicked out. Therefore, I no longer am subject to those conditions. But the reason that I no longer am subjected to those conditions is because I got kicked out because I didn't meet the conditions. An amended Clemson complaint released by the court asked the ACC for unspecified punitive damages for the league's willful and malicious conduct. See, that's what it all comes down to. If the ACC and the ESPN bargained and negotiated in good faith, then these schools are going to have to cough up money. More so, they're going to get out. I just don't see any way in which the ACC survives with Florida State and Clemson. They may survive in some compromised way, but this has gone just way too far down a path of bad blood and that these partners can no longer work together. It's been taken to the point where Clemson and Florida State will not be playing sports in the ACC. I do not see this happening and them being partners in the future. So they are going to part ways at some point in some manner. This is all about money. For Florida State and Clemson, this is all about the timing, getting out as soon as possible, and it's about the money that they will owe. For the ACC, it's about the money, and it's also about, and the ESPN and the ACC, it's about holding on to as much information and keeping it under lock and key as possible. So each side, as I see it, has two priorities here. And for both of them, it of course involves money for the schools to expedite the process and get out as soon as possible. For the ACC and ESPN, it's to hold on tight to information that they don't want. And those things are connected. The more information that is withheld, apparently, then the better case that ESPN and the ACC have. If information and documents come to light, then most likely those are going to favor Clemson and Florida State, because they're going to be able to pick apart those negotiation tactics to prove that they were made in not in good faith and that they don't owe as much money. So the amended Clemson complaint released by the court asked the ACC for unspecified punitive damages for the league's willful and malicious conduct, for its assertion that it should receive TV revenue from Tigers games even if they were part of another conference. Okay. Again, unless I'm missing something here, Clemson signed a contract knowing that they would have to give up those rights, both Clemson and Florida State, if they leave the league and break the GOR. Florida State was the first member of the ACC to sue the league in December. So that's where we stand there. If you are joining us for a first time or have not heard the explanation, what we're doing is we're opening up the headlines. Old school, open the headlines and check out the paper. Back in the day, of course, first thing in the morning, you get the sports page, you open up the sports page, you check out the sports page, you look at the headlines. So we go to ESPN every morning. We can go somewhere else or additional sources. So if you've got additional sources you would like me to tap, as long as they are national sources, then certainly we can open up those quote unquote newspapers as part of our morning headlines. Trade secret. Thank you, Dan. I don't know why I can't keep that term in my brain. Trade secret. They believe their negotiation process is a trade secret. I would love to hear that trade secret. It is difficult for me to believe that ESPN has devised a negotiation process that is so revolutionary, so unique, that it is not known by others. First of all, just because it's just so ingenious. Secondly, because they have had various people negotiate for them that have moved on to the NFL Network and Fox and CBS and the Baseball Network and all these other places throughout the years. Trade secret. Thank you. Don't know why I can't keep that in my mind. Mike likes the haircut. Mike gives me the pass on the haircut, gives me the thumbs up. Thank you for that, Mike. Yes, $9 at Great Clips. $9.99. And I said, is it always $9.99? I got my haircut a few weeks ago. Well, a couple months ago, whenever it was. I was down here 6 weeks ago for $29. That was with a tip. It was probably, I don't know. Whatever it was the most I've ever spent for a haircut. But like everything else, it's just going up and up and up and up and up. Even like at a Cost Cutters kind of place, what was it? 5 years ago, $12, 10 or $12. Now it's more like 20, 22. And I think their regular prices were $19.99, so $20. But they were having some kind of special. I said, how long is the special going on? And they didn't know. They said, until they tell us it's not. Ralph says, just take the $140 million loss and join the SEC or the Big Ten, and you will make that money back pretty quickly. FSU, Clemson, Miami. That's all well and good, Ralph. I agree with you. However, it's also about the television. That's what they're arguing about. The $140 million, yes, Clemson and Florida State are arguing that that's excessive, but that is the baseline exit fee. They are arguing over what will amount to 5 to close to 700 million in revenue that is tied to home television games. So that's the big argument. Nick, good to see Nick here. Michigan fan Nick. Mark, are you going back to Big Ten Media Days this year? I don't know, because that was a drive last summer. And this year, it will be a flight. So I'll look into flights. My daughter's visiting in a few weeks, and she got a great flight. She got a great rate. So if I get a similar rate than that, yeah, maybe I'll go to Big Ten Media Days. I have an issue with pinpointing these media days because, yeah, I'm going to get more bang for my buck out of all of you, because I believe we've got more Big Ten fans than any other conference, but I want it to be spread out evenly, and I would love to go to all the media days, but of course they're all over the place, and that would be rather expensive. But I do appreciate you asking, because I thought we had a successful run at Big Ten Media Days. Seemed like a lot of people noticed that I was on television a number of times, and that's good exposure. I don't ask questions to get on TV, but I thought I had reasonable questions, and we had our buddy Phil Steele note that. That's nice to hear those things when you see Phil Steele on Twitter say that I ask good questions, and then he comes on here and makes the same comment, and people just saw that we were there. And I enjoy hearing from the coaches and the players and all of it. And boy, it had been a long time since I was at a major conference media days. I did go to the American Conference Media Days a few times in the last 10 years. I think I've gone about 3 times to the American Conference Media Days, because they were within a 2-hour drive when I lived in Connecticut. But in terms of one of the big conferences, SEC Media Days in 24 years ago, that's the last time I went there. All right. Elsewhere in the headlines, see what we've got. So we've got Mike Riley, former Oregon State and Nebraska coach, has been named to the CFP selection committee. I think that's a good thing. Mike Riley seems like one of the really good guys in college football. Obviously knows the game, knows the sport, and coached in 2 different conferences at 2 major programs, and at Oregon State, of course, twice. I don't know that we're going to find anything else out besides that. He replaces AD Pat Chun, who was appointed to the 13-member committee when he was at Washington State, but stepped down when he was hired for the same position at Washington. All the usual things are said about Mike Riley from Bill Hancock, executive director of the CFP. Riley will serve a 3-year term on the committee, was the head coach at Oregon State, as we discussed, and then he went to Nebraska, went back to Oregon State. So he went to Oregon State, did a heck of a job that parlayed into the San Diego Chargers head coaching position for, I believe, 2 seasons. Then he left and came back to Oregon State. So it was Mike Riley, Dennis Erickson. Riley comes back in the late portion of the first decade this century. And then he went to Nebraska, of course, probably as the numbers there. He went 19-19 at Nebraska. I would have guessed his record was slightly better than that, because I do remember a 9-4 season. But I think it went, they closed out at at 4-8, lost to Iowa by 7 touchdowns. Gave up 56 points to Iowa. Iowa fans, can you remember a 56-point game? I remember that game. I'm just saying, 56 points for Iowa. That's half the season. But these days, yeah, he closed out at 4-8. That's going to get him fired at Nebraska. It's amazing how they've not been able to replace Bo Pelini's records. You think of that? Bo Pelini, what was his last season at Nebraska? I believe it was 20. Riley would have been there in 15, 16, and 17, I believe. He took them to their last bowl game in 2016 against Tennessee in the Music City Bowl. And then, of course, it was Scott Frost, 18 through 22, 5 seasons of Scott Frost. And so Bo Pelini got fired after 2013, which I believe was another 9-4 season. Bo Pelini went 9-4 or 10-4 every year he was there. It's amazing, or 9-3, that they can't match his record, and we're over a decade away from Bo Pelini, and Nebraska still can't match his record, and that's why he got fired. Now, I know he wasn't the easiest guy to get along with, and that had something to make it a little bit easier to push him out the door. It justified the firing a little bit more to some. Riley was at one time the longest tenured coach in the Pac-12, took over Oregon State in 1997, as we mentioned. They had not had a winning season, and I'm doing all-time program rankings, as you mentioned. I went through the Pac-12 last night. Yeah, Oregon State, I went through their records going back to 1970. In fact, they went from 70 to 97. When we talk about how bad Oregon State has been, and I've got a certain caller who will not accept this about certain programs, Oregon State was horrible forever. 27 years without a winning season, and not to have a winning season as an FBS team that is scheduling 2 and 3 group of 5 teams in non-conference play. There is something seriously wrong. That means you can't go 3 and 5 in conference. He left ever for 27 years. He left after 2 seasons. There we go with the Chargers. Then he comes back to Corvallis in 2003, had winning seasons in 8 of the next 12. So he was there from 2003 through 14. And then, of course, went to Nebraska, returned to Oregon State as an assistant under their former coach, Jonathan Smith, now at Michigan State. Other new committee members include, of course, Gary Pinkel, who did a heck of a job at both Toledo and Missouri. Their transition from the Big 12 to the SEC, won 2 division championships there. And if you look at Missouri football, as I did last night in preparing the all-time program rankings, I guess I underestimated or I forgot how bad Missouri was in the 80s and most of the 90s. They were piling up 3-8 seasons like nobody's business. And Gary Pinkel got a hold of that program and turned them around. And really, you got to think, if it weren't for Gary Pinkel and whoever else was involved in upgrading Missouri football, they would have had no shot of being picked up by the SEC. So those folks, Gary Pinkel, Baylor Athletic Director Mack Rhodes, Virginia Athletic Director Carla Williams, and Arkansas AD Hunter Yurachek, they replace the committee chair, Boo Corrigan, who I believe is being succeeded by Ward Manuel. Yes, that's down in the other paragraph. Michigan AD Ward Manuel will now be the chair. I find that very odd, coming off 2 NCAA investigations. Don't really understand that. That just seems odd. I'm not saying that he can't do a good job. I'm not saying that Michigan did anything egregiously wrong. I think that has yet to be seen, yet to be known. Maybe that's an indication by the powers that be, that the people that do know what's going on with this NCAA investigation, that it's going to amount to nothing. Otherwise, I think it would be a horrible look to have Ward Manuel be the committee chair for the playoff committee. And at the same time, while he's sitting chair, that Michigan gets pummeled by the NCAA. So I don't think that's going to happen. Again, Virginia AD Carla Williams and Arkansas AD Hunter Yurachek. So they replaced Boo Corrigan, Kentucky Athletic Director Mitch Barnhart, Utah AD Mark Harlan, Kansas State AD Gene Taylor, Hall of Fame former coach Joe Taylor, and former Notre Dame linebackers and tight end Rod West, whose terms have expired. The CFP extended the term of former All-American Nebraska lineman Will Shields, who obviously had a great NFL career as well with the Kansas City Chiefs. He will stay on for a year. Other returning committee members are former Nevada coach Chris Ault, had 2 long stints at Nevada. Navy Athletic Director Chet Gladchuk, former Wake Forest coach Jim Grobe. Have great respect for Jim Grobe. Took them to the Orange Bowl in 2006. Miami, Ohio AD David Saylor, former sports writer Kelly Whiteside. I've heard that name. Can't really vouch for her work. Manuel and Shields. They will be the first to be tasked with the 12-team selection. And they have the easiest job that the committee has ever had. Now, I'm not saying we don't know what the season's going to bring, so I'm not talking about this particular season. I'm talking about logistically, they have the easiest job that the committee's ever had. Deciding between 4 and 5 and 6 was difficult at times and meant something big. Was vital for those 10 seasons with a 14 playoff. They've got a 12-team selection. First of all, the group of 5 selection is pretty easy to make. Most years, if you go from season to season to season to season, there is one group of 5 team that distinguishes itself generally. However, this past season, Liberty 13-0, SMU 11-2. That seems clear-cut, correct? However, SMU lost 2 games to Power 5 teams, TCU and Oklahoma. They were undefeated against group of 5 teams. This was my case for SMU being the group of 5 rep in the New Year's Six last year. Liberty was 13-0, but SMU was 11-2. 2 losses to Power 5 teams. Liberty did not play a Power 5 team. SMU played a much tougher schedule, won the American Conference, which was the best of the argument between the Mountain West and the American Conference as the best conference in the group of 5. I would have gone SMU. I think they were only 1 spot lower in the playoff rankings. So they've got the group of 5 decision. And then, of course, they've got the decision between 9, 10, 11 in that range. And they're going to have difficult decisions to make because, as you guys know from watching here for years and years and years and years, or at least months and months and months and months and months, we've gone through at least back to 2014. We've even done it before that. But if you just look at the playoff years, if you expand to 12 teams, there are some tough decisions to make. But those decisions are at the back end of the playoff spots. And the argument, I think, is a valid one that if you don't make a 12-team playoff, even if you deserved it, even if you earned it, let's say, and this is not just a real possibility, it is going to happen. It has happened if there was a 12-team playoff in the last 10 years. 7 teams are 9-3. And you only have 2 spots for 7 teams that are 9-3. LSU, North Carolina, Tennessee, Wisconsin, Kansas State, and SMU, and Kansas are 9-3. They're all 9-3. You only have 2 spots. They're going to have to make those decisions. That's going to be their toughest decision. But there are 2 components there that is going to make that palatable for the average college football fan. Number one, they don't believe those teams have a shot to win the national championship. They're just filler teams at the end of the 12-team field. That's number one. Number two, you were given every opportunity to win your conference, to have a better record. It's not like the calls that they've had to make these previous 10 years to decide, okay, 2018, Oklahoma 12-1, Big 12 champion, Ohio State 12-1, Big 10 champion. They won't have to make those kind of calls. It's all going to be laid out for them. 4 conference champions, they get the top 4 seeds. So their power has been reduced considerably. They have more options now. Ralph fills in the Bo Pelini record, 67-27. That is so far beyond anything that they've done since. 39-17 in the Big Ten. Now, did he ever beat anyone good? Not really, but they beat everyone else in the Big Ten. They were very cut and dry. Oh, you can see who they're going to beat on their schedule. They beat them like clockwork. Everyone. They never got upset. I doubt if he got upset at Nebraska in the Big Ten. But they were playing Ohio State, Wisconsin, and somebody else that was good at the time, Penn State. They'd lose those 3 games, sometimes embarrassingly, and they go 5-3 in the Big Ten. But shoot, they're going 2-6. Well, they play 9 games now. Now they're going 3-6, 2-7 in the Big Ten. All right. Do we have any other headlines we need to hit on? You would think over the weekend. I am not going to talk about a linebacking recruit committing to Oregon. Number one, that happens every day. I understand he's one of the top 40 players in the country. His name is Wyatt, but he could decommit and flip 3 weeks from now or on National Signing Day. So who cares? All right. I am tired of commitments flipping. We do have another court situation to work through here. This is NCAA could pay over $2.7 billion to settle antitrust suits. Well, you know what the good news is there. The last time we probably read the same story, and I don't want to shortchange these writers, Pete Thamel and Dan Murphy, but they posted the same story. I'm not going to say the same story. I don't know if it's the same story. I'm saying it could be the same story. They could have 80% same story and then fill in some different blanks. But it was $4.2 billion last week. Now it's down to $2.7 billion. The national office might be footing the bill for a settlement expected to be more than $2.7 billion in the landmark House versus NCAA lawsuit and other related antitrust cases in hopes of reshaping and stabilizing the college sports industry. Sources told ESPN that parties have proposed the NCAA's national office, rather than its individual member schools or conferences, would pay for the settlement of past damages over a period of 10 years. Where would they come up with $4 billion? Well, it's down to 2.7. Where would they come up with that? The NCAA payments would be paid to former college athletes who say they were illegally prevented from making money. Yes, we went through this last week. I would love to know where this cutoff is. Because at the time, okay, this is making money by selling the rights to their name, image, and likeness. Okay. that wasn't quite as clear the last time we went through this, because I thought that was more in line with, oh, we are working, therefore, okay, this is an NIL, and maybe I'm getting the two juxtaposed here. All right, so anyway, NIL. So we're going back to, is there going to be an argument made that if you bought a Texas A&M jersey back in 2012 and it said number 2 on it, but didn't say Manziel, that we all knew who it was? Is that going to have to be determined? Now, of course, we're also talking about video games. That's where the bulk of this comes from in regards to the revenue source. The settlement could come with a corresponding commitment from conferences and schools to share revenue with athletes moving forward. Well, you would think so. Would it be, oh, we're suing them and going to compensate them $2.7 billion, but then the schools are going to continue and the conferences to not share the money with them going forward, and then we'll have another lawsuit in 10 years. The settlement would establish a framework for power conferences to share revenue with their athletes in the future. Okay. Sources have told ESPN that schools are anticipating a ceiling of nearly $20 million per year for athlete revenue share moving forward. Is that legal? To put a cap on it. The figure is derived from a formula, so they're starting to think like business people. Good. That's expected to be, per sources, 22% of a revenue metric that's still being discussed, which is said to be based on various revenue buckets. It would be up to the schools to share that much. 22%. So 20 million per year. 20 million per year for athlete revenue. Okay, let's say that's only football. We know it's not, but let's say it's probably 90-some% football. So let's just say it's all football to make the math easier. $20 million per year for how many athletes? Everyone? 80 per team, 85 scholarships, 133 schools, 135, I believe, in FBS, and they all get an even cut? Do the math, folks. 135 times 85 divided by 20 million. $135. I don't know if you guys can see this. We got the calculator here. That's 11,475 athletes in football. $20 million. Divided by 11,475 athletes. They each get $174. Okay. That can't be. That's what I get. $20 million over 11,000 athletes. That can't be 11,000. That might be 1,100. Did I screw that up? 135 schools. Well, if they've each got 10 players, that's 1,100. Yeah, that's over 11,000 football players in FBS play. It's not much money. Or are they going to distribute it based on your caliber of play and try to make some kind of connection as to whether you are part of the video game in play and all of that? Wow. Nick is asking, Mark, do you think James Franklin missed the opportunity to take a step forward as a top-tier Big Ten program with that 2017 team that should have made the playoffs talent-wise? If not, then when? Yes, that was his best team. That team went 11-2. They lost to Ohio State. Of course, they should have won that game. They were up 28-10. They were up in the fourth quarter, double digits. They lost in Columbus, and that would have really propelled them. They would have been the Big Ten champions at 12-1, would have made the playoffs. They won a Fiesta Bowl against Washington. I'm trying to think of their other loss in 2017. They did not lose to Michigan. 2017. Ohio State. Who would they have lost to? Michigan State, probably. Yeah, I believe they lost to Michigan State as well. Yeah, I think, yes, lost to Michigan State. And, yeah, that team was so good. That team was so good. So good. They outplayed Ohio State. They lost to Michigan State. Don't remember if that was a home game. Yeah, that was Franklin's best team, which is saying quite a bit because 2016, of course, they won the Big Ten. 2019 was really good. But, yeah, Trace McSorley better than Sean Clifford. Saquon Barkley was there. They had better receivers with the likes of Chris Godwin and Mike Gesicki would have been on that 2017 team, I'm almost positive, than they do now. Their defense was comparable. Well, Nick, they didn't make the playoffs because they lost to Michigan State. The Ohio State game, because of how good Ohio State was and it was on the road, was forgivable. But the way they lost it, like if you just said they went on the road, lost to Ohio State, who went on to win the Big Ten championship. Okay, fine. They lost by 1 point at Ohio State, but it was the manner in which they lost the game. So that was the one that got away. The Michigan State loss, they shouldn't have lost to Michigan State. That was a 10-3 Michigan State team. That was pretty good, but they lost in Columbus 45-3 that year. Michigan State with oh my goodness, I can't think of their quarterback. Little running quarterback they had. Man, I'm losing it on names. Yeah, that was a great comeback by JT Barrett. That's the best. That is the best JT Barrett passing game in the clutch. Got blown up by Iowa. They lost the game to Oklahoma. That was a close 10-9 lead they had in the fourth quarter, and they fell apart and lost by 15. And, yes, then the blow up to Iowa. Yeah, fumbled at the goal line, 27-24. Yep, remember it well. Thank you. Thank you, Ralph. I forgot that name, Brian Lewerke. Thank you. He was their quarterback for probably 3 full seasons. He's a good quarterback. Usually gets you about 20, 22 touchdown passes against like 7 or 8 picks. Good runner, good game manager, good player. Had no shot of doing anything in the NFL, but all right. So anything else with the NCAA here? Yeah, this 22% intrigues me. We just did the math. We're giving each athlete $175. Unless there is a limited number of athletes that are directly in the video games, they have to go through all sorts of merchandising that's related to players. Oh my goodness, what a mess. And how far do they go back with this? Good Lord. Ferris says that Michigan State accomplished more than Penn State and Wisconsin in the Big Ten in the last 10 years. Well, that's arguable, but I see your argument. They made it to the playoffs. So that's 2014 through 23. You've got Michigan State with a Big Ten championship in 2015. You've got Penn State with a Big Ten championship in 2016. You've got Wisconsin with no Big Ten championships during that time. Although they made it to more Big Ten championship games than the other two. Wisconsin made it in 14, 16, 17, 19. So it's a close call. But yes, a Big Ten championship and a playoff appearance trumps the Penn State. Troy says $1,700 per athlete. Is that what it comes to? Maybe I put one too many zeros in there. So I've got 20 million. That's 2,000, 200,000. That's 20,000. That's 200,000. Oh, I know what I did wrong. I put in 2 million. Okay. Thank you, Troy. 1,700. I missed the zero there. All right. I got the same number without the zero. Yeah, I put in 2 million. 20 million, $1,700 per athlete if they all get treated equally. But if they really want to grind it down to video game appearances by these players and jerseys, and wow. Ferris, if you say that Michigan State was better in the last 10 years, I would disagree with you, but you're not saying that. You're saying they accomplished more. Sure. I don't necessarily agree with that. I would say that Penn State won a Big Ten championship as well. They won how many New Year's Six games? 17, 19, 22, 3 New Year's Six wins. Michigan State won in 2014. Michigan State happened to make the Invitational in 2014. Okay. All right, what's for breakfast? Well, I got to say, I'm really going to have to figure out whether I'm going to get serious about this or not. I filled up on ice cream and Chips Ahoy's the last few days, but that's nothing new. I do that all the time. I was again at my friend's house last night for dinner. Thank you, Keith and Debbie, for feeding me again. Enchiladas, they were excellent. I've got leftovers in the fridge. It's the fridge or the refrigerator. In the fridge. But my daughter's going to be here in about 3 weeks. And it really has nothing to do with her, but it gives me a goal. It gives me to say, okay, eliminate sugar for 3 weeks. Got 3 weeks, no sugar. I finished off the cookies last night. And when I say no sugar, does that mean like I'm going to inspect every ounce of everything? No, that means I'm going to eliminate obvious processed sugar. So no sweets, no desserts, nothing like that. And I'm not going to buy like sugar cereal. I'm going to eliminate 90% of it. If I stick to a fruits and vegetables diet, bacon and eggs, red meat, sure, chicken, sure, fish, yes. I've got these frozen dinners that are sugar-free. They're excellent. And if they want to give us a sponsorship, I'll say their name. No, they're called Kevin's. So I think I can do that. I really don't think I can do it for 3 weeks. But I may have stated this at another time. If you've got a goal, I thought this was brilliant advice. And this came to a lady author, Beth Moore. Read a couple of her books. They were excellent. And when she was struggling with something, needed to get past something, and thought about trying to accomplish that for the rest of her life, she thought, that's impossible. I can't do that. I can't beat this. You know, you can fill in the blank, whether that's food, whether that's exercise, whether that's some kind of other addiction. you have to get past just thought of living without that and being able to defeat that for the rest of your life just seems insurmountable. But the word that God gave her was simply just today. Just do it today. Just do it today. Can you do it today? She thought, yes, I can do it today. Then you will have the grace to get that accomplished today. Then we will get back together tomorrow and we will work on tomorrow. So today I have plenty of good food here. I've got the leftovers from last night. I've got these healthy dinners. I've got fruits and vegetables. So I'm leading toward a smoothie for breakfast. So as you old timers that have been here for all of 13 shows know that our next segment is what's for breakfast, Mark. And we will make exceptions to my eating plan for the next 3 weeks. If you have a breakfast item menu, something you would like me to fix, something you would like me to prepare, something you would like me just to straight purchase, let's say there's a particular bagel or donut, pastry, croissant, something you want me to try, or you want me to tear off the cupboards and pull out the mixing bowls and the whole deal, we will do that as well. So you please let us know here at the Voice of College Football what you would like me to make for breakfast, and we will make it together. Or we will just simply purchase it. Here it will be. So you know the procedure. Basically cover the cost, whatever you estimate that to be. I'm not going to grind it down to the penny. And certainly leave the menu items, and we will have that breakfast item together. We will see how I will fare if it involves some type of recipe and cooking. We've done bacon and eggs, we've done smoothies, and I think our smoothie today will contain, as I check the chat, because you guys always have interesting, what are the smoothie staples? I'm glad you asked, Nick. I was going directly to that right now. This is generally the list of smoothie staples, and once again, I apologize because we do not have our cordless wireless mic. This is, I don't know what the deal is. It's not working. But so I will trail off here for a quick second. The staples are, I start with some type of green. So whether that's arugula, baby spinach, got a spring mix, which I will enjoy much better as a salad than this. So I'll probably use this for the smoothie, because eating tons of spinach straight, I do it, don't like it. Blueberries, strawberries, that's always a must. I do have fresh strawberries and blueberries, but we'll save them just to eat. And then if I really want to get some other stuff in here that I don't enjoy eating, just eating, I picked up some sugar snap peas. And for me to think about like eating these, yikes, I'll throw them in there. It's just to eat them, forget it. The same thing, this is terrible of me. I continue to buy asparagus, and it just pains me to think about eating this stuff, especially the way I prepare it. Now, this weekend, I was out for dinner and had some good asparagus that was produced by a restaurant. But they're a little bit better at these things than me. Just the thought of me putting asparagus in the oven, throwing a little garlic salt on it. I got into the habit at one point in the last couple of years, but I'm out of that habit now. So it's like, I'm going down to Culver's or somewhere because, so I have pretty much wasted 2 stalks of asparagus. And I would like to say that these are the only 2 that I've wasted since I've been here, but that would not be true. So something like that, Nick. Whatever vegetables are around that have passed their prime to take in directly, I'll throw those in there. Grill it. Grilled it. Yeah. The grill's gone. Don't have a grill. Need to purchase a grill. We'll deal with that at some point. Dion GBR, appreciate you being here. Throw some butter on steamed asparagus and it's great. They aren't nasty like Brussels sprouts. Yeah, I do like the asparagus better than Brussels sprouts. I do. But again, the way I make them, heartburn on the asparagus. I gotta say, one of my big problems in life when it comes to nutrition is nothing hurts my stomach. So that's why I can just eat sugar until it's pouring out of my mouth, and like no combinations of food bother me. And a lot of people correct their eating habits because they have some kind of health scare. I've got a few people in my life like that. Or their stomachs bother them so much that it's not enjoyable for them to eat like that anymore. I can't say that. It doesn't bother me. But yeah, this will be the next step here with breakfast. We do appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. It's every Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. Eastern. Tell your friends, tell your family, get here. And it's great to see you all each and every Monday. Our next show is Texas Live at 7 Eastern. We've got USC Live at 10 Eastern. So please join us later in the day for those particular shows. Again, Texas at 7, USC at 10. We start our all-time program rankings. You will see a video from me today. All-time program rankings. You will not see this anywhere else. Trust me. Right here at the Voice of College Football. See you later today.